Hello, friends. What a crazy time to be alive, hey? This week we're not having small groups, so I'm hoping I can bring you an encouraging word and a challenge that you guys can do, hopefully to not go stir crazy while you're at home. So today I'm going to be going through the story of Moses a little bit, and hopefully I can identify some of Moses' personality for you and encourage you with some of the things that he struggled with. So, really quickly, I'm going to identify where we are in the story, and then I'm going to read a bunch of scripture, and then we're going to talk about it. So, here we go. Moses was born to the house of Levi, and he was hidden by his mother from the Egyptians. Ironically, after a day of floating down the river, he's adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. Flash forward, Moses in his adulthood, after being a prince of Egypt, he kills an Egyptian man that he sees beating a Hebrew. And so Pharaoh finds out, and Moses runs away to Midian, and he rescues a flock of sheep that belong to a priest who has 7 daughters, and he ends up marrying one of them, and they have a child. So Moses achieves dad status, and he gets his little cap that he can wear too. And so during this time, the current Pharaoh dies and is succeeded by his son. Israel begins to cry out to be set free from Egypt as their slaves, and Moses has an encounter with God on Mount Sinai, and God promises that he's going to liberate Egypt, and Moses is the guy who's going to lead the charge. So, in this book, I'm going to jump into Exodus 4, if I can find it, and yes, I can. I'm going to read a huge chunk of scripture, and I want you to try and identify the characteristics of Moses' personalities here. And so this is their encounter on Mount Sinai, and now God has just told Moses, I have these signs for you. I'm going to make your staff, when you let go of it, it'll turn into a snake. And, take your hand out of your cloak, and it appears leprous. And then he puts his hand back, and it's clean. And God says, if they don't believe either of those crazy things that just happened, what you'll do is you'll pour some water on the ground, and that'll turn to blood, and they'll believe that. And so this is Moses' response to God. In Exodus 4, verse 10, Moses says to the Lord, "O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue." The Lord said to Moses, "Who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say." But Moses said, "Oh Lord, please send someone else to do it." So the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, "What about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He's already on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you. It will be as if he were your mouth and as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform miraculous signs with it." So Moses already saying, send someone else to do this. I'm not qualified, God. And God gives him the resources. And so I'm going to jump a little bit forward after they have an encounter with Pharaoh, and Moses performs these signs. Pharaoh says, well, you want to be free? How about I make conditions worse for you guys in Egypt? And so Pharaoh orders that all the slaves have to work extra hours and that they have to do more difficult tasks. And so in Exodus chapter 5, verse 22, Moses returned to the Lord and said, "O Lord, why have you brought trouble upon this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble upon this people, and you have not rescued your people at all." And so in Exodus chapter 6, verse 10, this is what it says. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites go out of his country." And in verse 12 it says this, "But Moses said to the Lord, If the Israelites will not listen to me, why would Pharaoh listen to me, since I speak with faltering lips? Moses is kind of repeating himself a little bit here. Every time that God's asked him to do something, Moses has a response to it, and he says, I can't do this. I have these reasons here. I don't speak well. I'm not eloquent. They're not going to listen to me. And the irony is that God is literally giving him the plan. The irony is that God has promised him something, and it's like Moses doesn't know who he's talking to, And I love that personally. I identify with that, with Moses here. That anxiety, that fear of not knowing, of that misplaced, he doesn't know who he's serving here. And it's so encouraging to me, because when you think of Moses, you think, let my people go. He's so confident, and he knows who he's serving. And, when he takes the Israel to the promised land, he's got this purpose, and he's on it, and he knows what God is going to do. God's going to do what he's going to do. But in this early stage of his leadership, he has such a fear and an anxiety of not knowing what's going on. And so there's this lovely contrast here. When you get to Exodus 14, in verse 10, it says this. I love this. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians. So they've gone through all the plagues, and Pharaoh has decided, after Israel goes out to the desert, I'm going to send my armies after them. And so Israel sees them coming. There they are. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. Israel said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us here to the desert to die? What is it you have done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians as slaves than to die in the desert. Their freedom was not worth the price to them. Moses answers the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you need only be still. What a difference that a small period of time in his life has made. He has watched God move. He's gotten to know God a little bit. And I challenge you today to stand firm in your faith when you're afraid, or when you feel discouraged, or you don't feel equipped to do something. God has a plan, and he's going to equip you to do that. He's never going to give you something you can't handle. He's never going to kick you out when you don't know how to swim. He's going to give you the little pool floaties so you can kind of learn, and then you'll learn how to doggy paddle on your own. But, God always equips those who he has a purpose for. And if he's asked you to do something, or if, you're in a situation like we are right now, he's given you the ability to do that, and you need only rest on his word, rest on what Moses learned, that God is bigger, that God is, and he was, and that he has a plan, and that nothing you can do can stop him from being God. He's in control. You're not. And that's the beauty of life, is I don't have to worry about stuff because I'm not in control, and I recognize that. So there's my little encouragement for you today. I'm going to have some questions down. Where are they? Probably in the comments section. I'm trying to sound like a cool YouTuber and be hip. We're going to have some questions that you guys can go through. What I would like you to do is ask your parents these questions. Be the small group leader today and ask your parents these questions. See what they say. Call some of your friends on Skype and lead a small group discussion. Watch this video and lead that. Keep the community going while we're isolated right now, and when people are going to shut in a lot more. Let's keep some community together, guys. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon enough.